I think, as I mentioned to Sue then, we've actually got about 130 attendees, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you very much for taking the time out today. As I've mentioned, hopefully for any newcomers coming who weren't in then, if we could all make sure we're on mute. I was in a webinar the other day and someone was typing away. So yeah, if we can all be on mute, then we can all, we'll all hear. So I think, I know a lot of you have been around in the market a long time. I'm heading the proposition for AdviseWise. What we're doing, this is the first in a series of webinars. And what I'd ask, we've got a fantastic attendance today. Please do register if you're not registered with us. We're going to do a number of these various seminars, but what we're actually going to be looking for is coming out to you guys and actually asking, you know, what's relevant to you going forward. You know, the times are, you know, we're in strange times. We were actually moving towards going down the digital route anyway, so we just thought, right, let's move this on quicker. And I think, who knows, this may well become the new reality and the norm. And I think there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing more of these going forward. So what I want to have a look at is, you know, we're here today to talk about, there's been a couple of blockages in the system. I think there'll be a lot of talk about the desktop valuations as we're going forward. And for those of you who are registered, we'll see our COVID live feed where we're keeping you very much up to date on what's going on in the marketplace. And that is live. So literally, as soon as that comes through to us, that's there. So register for that if you haven't done already. As I mentioned, there's 130 attendees, or some may have dropped out, but we will be sending a recording through of this, you know, once we finish, so it'll all be there. Can I ask as well, we will be doing some questions at the end, and the way me and Peter are going to be doing this is we will do this, a bit of a chat. There's a couple of questions I'll be asking Peter as we go out. If there's any questions you have, please put them into the chat and we'll try and answer as many as we can at the last, you know, as we got the last 5-10 minutes or so. It will last 30 minutes, but then if there's any other questions, we're more than happy to help on that. So I think Peter probably doesn't need much introduction. I was asking Peter when he first started, and I didn't realize that he did his first case in 1997. You know, he literally is the Peter Pan of the industry. Look at that young face. You know, it's, you know, I thought I was one of the old boys in 2001, but, you know, 1997. So Peter's part of our specialist panel, you know, so, and a very important part of our legal panel. So again, we've got exclusive deals there with Peter. So again, worth registering if you haven't for that. What I want to do then is let's talk to Peter, because I think Peter's the expert, and this is what we've all come to listen to, and not me. Pete, you know, I sat in on the Equities Council webinar yesterday, so there's obviously a lot of work has gone on. What I'd like is your view, and if you could explain for those of us who have perhaps, or those who weren't on the webinar yesterday, could you explain the temporary rules to us? And really, how are they helping us move the market on? That would be very, very useful if you wouldn't mind.
So, morning all. The Peter Pan, thanks for that, John, much appreciated.
Yeah, that's a pleasure, Pete.
For those people that are interested, it was actually NPI in 1997 that I did the case with a 50% annuity of a property in Barnstable. And the lady died in 2014 after the successor to NPI phoned me every month to see whether she died because they were losing money. But that's by the by. Moving on. Right. You all know that from January 2014, the rules for having a mortgage deed signed as part of the legal process had to be in the physical presence of a solicitor or equivalent qualified person. No exceptions, no variations. With COVID-19 coming forward, there has been a concern in the market, particularly from the lender's solicitor's side, that there'll be a relaxation in the rules, which resulted in a number of conversations by the legal specialists, including ourselves and the lender's solicitors over the past 2 or 3 weeks, resulting in the very much temporary rules, which were announced about a week and a half ago now. So what are they? Well, and this is where the confusion often lies, is whilst there are these temporary rules, the existing rules are also still in place. So for those firms such as ourselves and my fellow panel member on AdviseWise, if you have travelling solicitors and have that facility, they can still go out because we're an essential part of the financial process. We're still authorised under government rules to go out and see clients. So it's a parallel process at the moment. The existing process is still in place for those that have that facility to send out travelling solicitors to a client's home. And both ourselves and our fellow panel member are implementing this with social distancing measures in place, so the wearing of gloves, face masks, enough gel to float the HMS Ark Royal, and doing business. We're not actually crossing the threshold. It's very much at a distance, but in the physical presence. Now, the temporary rules have come about for those firms that don't offer that, let's call it the gold standard of service, for those firms that are locked at home, haven't got a travelling solicitor team, or haven't got coverage in a certain area. So the rules are now that, subject to the following of 4 mandatory steps within the temporary process, bearing in mind that this process will end as soon as the lockdown is lifted. So as long as 4 mandatory steps are followed during the process with a revised solicitor certificate, then an independent witness can sign off the mortgage deed. Okay. Now, there was discussion as to whether the signing can be done via Zoom or Skype or an equivalent, but due to case law dating back to 1989, the solicitor or the independent witness has to be physically in the presence of the person signing the mortgage deed. So I couldn't watch John sign a mortgage deed, he post it back to me and I witness it. That is forbidden. I've been asked this question daily for the past 4 weeks, is can you not Skype into the client and they send it back to you? That wouldn't be a valid mortgage deed. So this is why there's been this relaxation for those firms that haven't got that let's call it the gold standard offering or the normal offering of a travelling solicitor team. Now, it's important to look at the 4 mandatory steps and then address the independent witness side. The independent witness are there at the end. The 4 mandatory steps are 4 obligatory points of contact. So the first one being, as soon as the solicitor is instructed, they make contact with the clients, at least by telephone, ideally by some form of visual communication, if possible, so they can see actually who's in the room, to introduce themselves and to discuss the new process to see if clients are comfortable in proceeding with that. Following that, the ideal offering would be the clients are contacted then with a questionnaire, identifying, this will also be done over the phone, reaffirmed over the phone, identifying who the beneficiaries of the estate of the clients are and what is the identity of the proposed independent witness. And that will come back in written form, either emailed or on the proposed form. The second compulsory stage is upon receipt of the offer to go through with the clients a lengthy meeting with a solicitor level conversation. So it can't be done by an office junior. It has to be either solicitor, licensed conveyancer, or an equivalent, so legal executive, where very much as I would do face-to-face with the client, they are taken through all the documentation, the legal implications to make sure the clients are happy, and then to arrange with the clients for an independent witness meeting. Obviously, around all of this, ideally, the solicitor will be speaking with the family if the clients are happy, and all through the process is reiterating, you are not seeing a solicitor face-to-face. It is done by, are you comfortable with this client? These are the dangers, X, Y, and Z. The third mandatory step is to actually video record, or record as we could record this meeting now, the meeting with the client, signing the documentation in the presence of the independent witness. So the independent witness would have to show the originals of their identification up to the screen, so they'll be holding up a driving license, passport, utility bill, because we need to identify that Jon Tweed really is Jon Tweed. He's not a cousin or a relative of the family, but he is independent. That meeting is recorded so the client can make sure it's all done properly. The final step is obviously when completion has been set. We have the completion of different Evershed, Optima, Enact, and we are phoning the client to confirm, again, minimum telephone call, ideally a recorded Skype or Zoom call, saying, here we are at completion, are you happy to complete? Again, reiterating the dangers of seeing an independent witness, that they've not had the joys of seeing the handsome Mr. Barton or whoever on a face-to-face basis. And the solicitor certificate has to be signed off. It is quite a, if you go onto the council's website, it is quite a stringent certificate confirming that those steps have been followed and that the clients are comfortable to proceed. So those are the new 4 mandatory steps. Obviously, quite a lengthy process. And I think if I was a borrower, I'd be quite concerned that there's all these warning signals being put up. Now, what actually is an independent witness? An independent witness is somebody over the age of 18. They're not related to the borrower in any way or married to a blood relative of the borrower. So it can't be the son-in-law or the daughter-in-law. So it has to be someone independent. I have actually, just out of interest, when we've been fixing up our, because we obviously still offer the original gold standard process, as I'm now cheekily labelling it, we've been actually saying to clients, would they be interested in having an independent witness? Out of 200 clients that we surveyed this with, only one of the 200 said they would contemplate it. And they phoned us back in 10 minutes saying, actually, they couldn't find anybody willing to come round because they didn't want to use up their 1 trip a day out to witness a mortgage deed. And secondly, they didn't want to be in the physical presence of somebody that they may either catch COVID-19 from or pass it to, because they didn't want it on their consciences that they'd inadvertently killed off an elderly person. So we've not had any success in, we have tried it just to see, are we forcing people to take a solicitor when there's an alternate route which they may prefer, and it's been a resounding 99.9% almost supportive of the travelling solicitor route. So those are the new rules. They will be enforced until the government relaxes the lockdown rules, but you have to follow those 4 mandatory steps before the case can complete, and it has to be signed off by the lender's solicitors. Okay. Just to add on to the tail end of that, if I may, John.
No, please do, yeah.
There have been some slight changes as well on the legal process side on documentation, because of course we're in a lockdown, and there's always been this, everyone always refers glibly to the wet ink mortgage deed. And I know a lot of small solicitors are struggling because all the posts are still going to the office and they're not seeing the original post, so it's stuck on someone's desk, so a veritable paper mountain of original documentation. There has been no budging. So whilst the rules have been relaxed on the one hand, that actually they can now, if they don't offer the travel solicitor service, they can have it independently witnessed. Those documents are going back to the office, and the smaller firms can't get into the office to then send them off. There has been zero relaxation by lenders solicitors on that, because ultimately their clients, the lenders, want the lender solicitors to be holding original mortgage deed, original transfer. On the cases of Pure, for example, they'll also need to be holding the original borrower declaration. So just so you know, for the panel firms of AdviseWise, ourselves and GW, I'll give a plug to Richard, we are still having people going into the office, obviously taking all precautions and sending off original documentation twice a week to the lender solicitors. What they've also, the lender solicitors have agreed for only a few firms, both panel members, I'm delighted to have got those exceptions, they'll accept electronic signatures from ourselves in GW on certain, so on the undertakings and on the building insurance declaration for Pure, they will accept electronic signatures. So they have relaxed rules just for a couple of firms to proceed on that basis. So our cases will still go through to completion. And that is, we're only allowed that because the lenders, they acknowledge our expertise and are comfortable in accepting electronically signed documents from us. So I think I've talked enough for John. I'm happy to field questions or anything you may want to.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think when I was listening into the webinar yesterday, and I think you've covered that off very well. I'm sure some of you were on the council on the Actuaries Council webinar yesterday as well. The one thing that came out, they did say they're actually lobbying the Law Society to make solicitors key workers or to get that status. What's your I think I suppose there's a couple of questions for me then. What's your thoughts on that? And also then, you know, we've talked briefly before about, you know, your process and social distancing, and I suppose I'm quite keen to understand, and pretty a few of us are, that how does your current process then fit in with the social distancing rules and guidelines, etc.?
Okay. Well, certain classes of solicitors are already essential workers. So solicitors that make wills, for example, are actually within government guidelines as essential workers. So our wills teams at Ashfords are still allowed to actually go into the office and visit clients because they are deemed to be performing an important function. That's not saying my team aren't. In fact, all of my team have been issued with a letter signed off by ourselves and our compliance team, as well as by the council, because our travelling solicitors are performing an essential role within a financial process. We are actually classified by both the FCA and the SRA, our regulators, as essential workers because we're part of this financial process. So I've actually had 3 of my team stopped by the police, one in Birmingham, one on the border of Devon,
Right.
and one in some odd place called Cumdrive or somewhere, Cumdrive, some odd place, I don't know, Wales or somewhere. Stopped by the police saying, what on earth are you doing here? Because they realised the plate wasn't local, all produced the letter that we said, and we were patted on the back and told to be on their way. And there were no issues whatsoever. So we are really a form of essential worker because of this integral part in the financial process. Now, what we are doing with clients is from the very first call throughout the process, and indeed even when the travelling solicitor calls to arrange an appointment, and I had the same conversation myself with the client this morning, is we're stressing to the clients, you know, documentation that we're printing off for you is being taken from the printer wearing gloves. It goes into a plastic wallet. So it's not, because obviously COVID-19 can be transmitted via paper, and it's alive on paper for 24 hours. So we're wearing the gloves there. Clients are told to have their own pen. We will not be giving them a pen. They leave the car having gelled up, wearing gloves and a face mask. The client, it is arranged before we arrive at the client where we'll actually do business. So it could be a garden table. We'll be one end of the garden, they'll be the other end. Documents will go on the table. Conversation will be had or through the door or through the window. I had one such meeting in a village hall car park, you know, across the car park, which is, yes, interesting to say the least. We look like some dodgy cult, I think it was, with all our face masks and gloves on, or a scene from MASH, you remember MASH? So whilst we are physically in the presence of the clients, we are not breaking the 2-metre rule, and generally it's far further than the 2-metre rule, so we're not actually in the presence of anybody. And I think for us, and certainly for Wise, I think I believe strongly that's a plus, really, because it enables us to ensure that the clients are happy to proceed. Because at this time, clients, you know, at one point they've been seen by the financial advisor several times, by the surveyor, and then by us. So I think it's still important to have that professional contact at some stage. You know, we are happy to help out the Wise members. So if anything, the clients are saying to you as advisors, but we can't return your authority form, or we can't give you identification because we're not allowed out to the post office. Our travel solicitor team, they'll get signed for you. Certified identification. They'll sign forms for you to send them through to me. We can offer that service to you all. I've spoken to several lenders who are taking us up on the same offer, so that the fact that there's been a suspicion that's been occupiers for the clients who would admit it. So we've not been peering through bedroom windows, I hasten to add, but we've been verifying that.
Which is good.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Not anymore anyway. So it's very much we're offering that service to the Advice panel members, that if there's anything they've not been able to get signed as part of the compliance or anything else we have on their file, because we're still going face-to-face, we can offer you all that service and do that as part of the process obviously at no additional cost. So for us, you know, we're still recording the meetings, clients are getting the benefit of face-to-face advice without being contaminated. It's, I think, peace of mind for the advisors that they still have, you know, they're not able to see the clients. We can offer that. if you have concerns about capacity, we can deal with those at the meeting. We can all bluff things on a Skype call or hide somebody behind the lens. So it's that added benefit, I feel. And actually, as I said earlier, independent witnesses, you don't necessarily want your neighbour or friend knowing what you're doing. They're going to have to provide identification, which, if I was somebody else to do this, I'd be wary of what I was actually signing off. And as I say, it just prevents against any financial abuse or any other form of abuse.
Thanks, Peter. Just a couple of questions from me. Sorry, I know I'm dominating. David, I've seen a question for you pop up, so I will ask that in a moment. David, Mr. Wright. Whether you'll be able to answer it, Peter, we'll see. That's your test. So from my viewpoint now, these are temporary measures put in place, and this is probably more opinion than anything, but obviously it's a very valid expert opinion. In overall, then, is that weakening the position of the guarantees of the council, or is it and I know it's needs must. I understand we're in exceptional times.
I think that's a very good point, John, and certainly from the meetings I had with the council as part of the legal panel, certainly Chris Pond in particular, and I think it's Jim Boyd, isn't it? We're very concerned. Obviously, there's a real battle to have the changes in 2014, and I think it was much the reassurance of the industry that we had those legal checks in place, and there was an extreme reluctance to proceed on this route. And certainly all of us that had the travel and solicitor teams, well, we were really the only ones that were invited to that panel because we are the larger firms. We all said, well, we're not, we hear the relaxation, but we're not relaxing the rules because we believe the standard that you've set is the right standard. And actually, interestingly, the pressure to relax the rules came from the lenders' solicitors.
Okay.
Not from us and not from any financial advisor firm. It was from the lenders' solicitors, because what they were saying was because 50% of the market came from the smaller firms, that you'd have old George Fauntleroy, the local solicitor, who was 97 and would still pop and see the clients at home because he was now housebound. They were trying to help that other part of the market that had the local solicitors. But what all of us said, apart from the lenders' solicitors, well, that's great, but I don't think we're really thinking through this. Who will be the independent witness, and will they be willing to do it? And actually, for the small firms that are working remotely, they won't be giving us to process the documentation anyway. So actually, you're not really freeing up any pipeline. So, and please don't take this the wrong way, everybody listening. There's anyone from the council on board, I apologise, but I did say this at the time. It seems almost a token, and it almost feels like it's a token gesture to say we're doing this, we're relaxing the rules. But actually, it's not really, it's not, for the people it's designed to help. It may have helped them get the documents signed, but the documents still won't go anywhere because they're still stuck in the post room of that smaller firm. Whereas for us panel, the legal panel felt very much like we were just helping everybody else out, which we're happy to do so, but you're not filling up a pipeline. So we're very much, we have these standards that have been put in place. They provide a massive amount of security for the clients and for the financial advisors alike, and for the lenders, in fact, that the clients do understand what they're doing. They're not being put in any pressure to make gifts to the family, and that we can still process cases because we can still get into the office, and we think, we've been made, exceptional cases to accept electronic signatures. So it's almost a false sense, and actually, and whilst you've still got the snag in the pipeline of having to produce original documents to lenders' solicitors, it's a tiny win, and actually, until the desktop valuations really do kick in, we're not going anywhere anyway.
Okay, thanks, Peter. I suppose the final one from me, and we've got 5 minutes or so. Then if anybody else, I'll ask David's question. If there's anybody else wants to use the chat function, please do. Obviously, even outside of this, we've got the help desk that we speak with Peter regularly. So if there's questions you have on the legal side, either direct to Peter or come through us. Let's do David's. see what your thoughts are on this, Peter.
Oh no, go on then.
If the solicitor is an essential part of the financial process and still allowed to visit clients, why does that not apply to surveyors? Is the government or FCA the problem? Now, okay, that's an overarching, and not that might be an opinion as opposed to, and it's a very good question, David. Whether we've got the answer to that.
From my perspective, from how I understand it, and obviously it is very much the valuer's decision, rather than, if they wanted to, as David Ryan says, the valuers could apply the same principles and still do the visit. So I think it's the valuer companies themselves that have taken that. That's as I understand it. If there's any valuers on the line, feel free to chip in and tell me I'm wrong. I'm used to being told that. But, I think it's the valuers companies themselves that have said that, because they don't want to either, because they have to physically cross the threshold and go around the client's house. I suspect they're more worried about spreading the disease than us solicitors that don't have to enter the property. But I think it's certainly effective. They could argue the case that they are essential workers and since the process. So David is quite right. But I guess because they have to physically cross the threshold and go into a property, either they run the risk of contaminating somebody in self-isolation more than we would do, is my feeling. But from my understanding, it was actually the valuers themselves that made that decision rather than...
Yeah, okay.
Because actually, if you think about it, the government rules are such that you can go out and travel to work if you can't work from home. Now, a valuer, if his role was to go and inspect a property, he clearly can't work from home to do that. So he could go out, or she could go out. I think it's
okay. I suppose the final one from me. How do you see this affecting the timescales? And I suppose leading on to that question will be, what are you seeing from your customers at the moment? Obviously, which is very important for everybody here because it's their customers as well.
Yeah, thanks for that one, John. So basically, you're asking me,
sorry.
have I got slower? Certainly, I can see my COVID-19 chin. Things have naturally got a bit slow. I'm not going to try and bluff through that one, and that's largely caused by the post, because I got a class letter just the other day, an essential trip, I hasten to add, and I was told that it's not next day. I posted on a Tuesday, and I was told it should be there by Saturday. So we know that the post, that small aspect of it there's no such thing really as next day sort of service. Obviously, all of our things posted either to us by travel solicitors or from us to lender solicitors or by the special next day delivery. We've all been told that isn't guaranteed for next day. It could be 48 hours. So potentially we've lost 2 or 3 days already just with the Royal Mail. Yeah. The original documents need to land up on the lender's solicitors' desks. So
I am going to have to move this to a wrap up. The 30 minutes is our limit.
So just John, very quickly, John. So we've lost about, I reckon we're 5 days slower.
Say it again, sorry.
I reckon we're 5 days slower overall. Okay,
that's very useful, I think, from the advisor viewpoint. Just briefly, and then sorry, there are a couple other questions I'm probably not going to get to, but Derek's asked, how are we finding land registry turnaround times? Have they been affected?
Well, the Scottish Land Registry actually closed for a while.
Yes.
I think that's reopened now. Our Land Registry, I'm actually surprised to say they seem to be doing okay. Normal timescales, certainly for our searches that we're doing, and certainly for quick processes like changing deeds from joint tenants to tenants in common and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's normal 2 to 3 day timescales. The registrations, however, where it's unregistered deeds, are taking a lot longer.
And I think, just very briefly, and I'm sorry there are 1 or 2 I won't be able to answer, but we will come back to you after this. Sue mentions that, these temporary measures, could they become longer term? And
no.
You think no?
The council were quite clear on that.
From the webinar yesterday, it did appear to be that.
They're really keen to maintain what they're doing. Just a quick update as well. The Office of the Public Guardian, who deal with powers of attorney, they are very slow at the moment. You've got to double the timescales of things to be done with them. And
Right.
the probate registry who are dealing with grants of probates, they're up to 20 weeks to get a grant of probate out.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Right, so half an hour seems like a lot of time, but there's been hopefully some useful information for everybody here, I'm hoping. Thank you everybody for attending. Peter, thank you very much for being our first guest speaker. As I mentioned from AdviseWise, we're going to be doing many more of these, and we really want to make sure we're relevant to you guys. So we will be, please register if you're not. We will be coming out to you and asking, right, what really do you know? What sort of guests do you want coming into this? And what you know, we've talked about AVMs, we talked about obviously legal, the two pretty major issues. But what else do we need to be looking at going forward? I think on top of that, just from AdviseWise, you know, we've got the expert placement desk, which has been used more and more at the moment because we are to remortgage due to LTVs, etc. Obviously, we've got this speciality, the special deals with Peter and Goldsmith Williams, our other partner on the legal side. The COVID live feed has been very, very important as well. So, so yeah, please do register. I'm sorry I haven't been able to answer all of the questions now, but we will try and come back to you on those. But thank you very, very much for your time, and hope it's been of use to you. And we look forward to, we'll be holding another one next week, which we'll confirm on Friday, the content. So hopefully you can join us. Thank you very much all.